Everywhere I see this game online, people call it that weird Dante's Inferno game. And earlier this year, I decided it was time to find out why people called it that. And after my 7-hour trip through Visceral Games' hack and slash, let me tell you that calling this game weird is an understatement. So, what the fuck was Dante's Inferno? Dante's Inferno was a game released in 2010 by Dead Space developer Visceral Games, and as mentioned before, it was a hack and slash very similar to the God of War series. If the name sounds familiar to you, but nothing you're seeing on screen does, that's because you've probably heard of the source material the game was based off of, the Divine Comedy, more specifically its first act, titled Inferno. The game follows Dante, a Templar who descends into the depths of hell to save his love Beatrice from the devil himself. Wielding a scythe that he rips straight out of Death's very own hands, Dante serves as a one-man army against the underworld, slaying any beast in his path. The characters and the order of areas within the game match the poem pretty well from what I've heard, but the game does take a lot of its own liberties, such as boss designs and the idea of Dante being this super unstoppable badass, but honestly I'd rather have it this way. The tone of the game is raw and truly deserving of being called an epic. However, if you're interested in reading the original work, the entire translated poem is readable in-game, which is awesome. I won't delve too deep into the game's mechanics, as this video is meant to look at its reception and not so much the game itself, but I feel like I do an injustice to the things that this game does really well, so I'll mention them briefly. First things first, this game is one of the most visually unique games I've ever seen with my own two eyes. This game is actually horrifying, and it's not even a horror game. You look at something like Doom 2016's depiction of hell, and it seems very realistic. It's just a bunch of rocks and caves and gross colors, and it's more absorbed by the game's own lore. This game's depiction of hell is more fantastical and biblical and actually scary. While Doom made me feel like, oh, this is a new area, Dante's Inferno made me think, this is a place where souls are sent to suffer. And actually the horrifying art style has effects on this video, as there's two main areas I can't show. Those being the Circle of Lust and the final boss, which both have a lot of nudity. Like a lot. Like a lot of nudity. On top of the art style, the gameplay is a lot of fun. It's very akin to the original God of War trilogy, but it has enough to differentiate itself too. The game does have a morality system, which you can alter depending on your actions against lost souls, who are characters you'll find along your way that you can either save from their sinful past or punish for their moral crimes. These decisions allow you to unlock new moves to use against the horde of demons you'll face on your journey. Is it literally just Infamous? Yes, but when you couple it with the God of War gameplay, it works really well in my opinion. The gameplay itself is really good, and I'd be flat out lying if I said I didn't like this game. It was fun, it was visually super unique, and I had fun with the game. However, I think the latter is what contributed to the game's overall stigma. It's grotesque and gross and overly sexual, and I think that's what turned a lot of people off from picking it up despite its good reviews. Aside from the main game, I think a lot of the people were turned off from this game from its marketing and general public appearance. They're trying to go for like a GTA or Mortal Kombat style of no publicity is bad publicity, but it ended up being a little unnerving and confusing and even controversial. Prior to the game's release, journalists were sent cash checks for $200 directly from EA with a long note, which is on screen now if you want to pause and read it, but it basically says, "Cash it, you're greedy, ignore it, you're an asshole, buy our game." EA also made a fake advertisement for a game called Mass We Pray, which if you attempted to pre-order it, it labeled you as a heretic and led you to a link to pre-order Dante's Inferno. They also had a link to this Facebook game where it would take your photos and friends' photos and allow you to banish them to hell or absolve them, and you could pick their punish. What is this? This is fucking weird. A lot of the marketing was leading a journalist or a curious person to check something out and then they'd be told that they were a sinner. And I'll admit, it's kind of creative, but it's weird. I'm sitting here and making this video and I'm uncomfortable just thinking about it. I think the weird aspect of it comes from how personal it is. It labels you as a sinner and kind of gives this subconscious feeling of guilt. At least for me, it makes me feel uncomfortable, and I think that's why the campaign didn't really sit with the general public. I think the worst stunt they did was a protest held in front of EA's office that was said to be a protest from real Christians, but was actually a large gathering of actors paid by EA in an act of marketing. This is just awful. It sort of painted Christians in a bad light when they were pretty much minding their own business. Regardless of your views of religion, paying people to cause problems pretending to be another group of people is extremely unfair to the other group of people. I think that it was done to rake in sales of a video game only adds salt to the wound. wounds. I think the main reason this game was cast aside was just because of its extremely uncomfortable and controversial marketing campaign. And it sucks that a game that's really not half bad has such a shitty legacy behind it. Have you played this game? If so, leave your opinions in the comments below. That's all I have to say for now, and I hope you enjoy.